Good morning. Welcome to the First Unitarian Church of Hamilton, both here in this sanctuary and to you in the sanctuaries of your homes. My name is Gail Rappold, and I am privileged to be your service leader this morning, as some congregants are back in the sanctuary. I begin with thanking today's service team, which includes the musicians, Rachel Derry, Cindy Carey, Nicola O'Shea, Philip Versteeg, religious educator Tim Versteeg, and the families and children and youth in the Children's Religious Education Program. And of course, the tech crew, Brian Carey, John Elliott, Bruce McPherson, John Pegg, and Marianne Forbes. And all those on the board and property team who worked to have this day happen. And of course, to our interim minister, Reverend Jamie Boyce. This sanctuary sits in the city of Hamilton on lands of many peoples who held it sacred. We live upon the traditional territories of the Erie, the Neutral, the Huron-Wendat, the Haudenosaunee, and Mississaugas. This land is covered by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, which was an agreement between the Haudenosaunee and the Anishinaabe to share and care for the resources around the Great Lakes. As settlers, we continue to benefit from this land and its resources. As settlers, we must ask ourselves how or if we have cared for and shared the earth and its gifts. Facing the truth is hard. Truth must come before reconciliation. Our chalice is a reminder of the light and hope of our faith. We light it each time we gather to remind us of the sacredness of our time together and our connections to the larger community and the world. As Tim and Nicola come forward to light both the sanctuary and the children's chalices, we will wait until they are ready, and then you will join me in our chalice lighting words. May this flame be our light of friendship and love. Thank you. This morning, we also light the third candle of Advent. We light this candle, the candle of joy. Joy this morning for those in the sanctuary experiencing being here with others in this, our spiritual home. For those, however, who for whatever reason cannot be here, perhaps feeling sad or a bit left out, it is missing this joy that they may be experiencing. So I light the candle for joy with Khalil Gibran's words. Some of you say joy is greater than sorrow. No, say others, sorrow is the greater. But I say unto you that they are inseparable. Together they come, and when one sits alone with you at your board, remember the other lies asleep upon your bed. Let us listen now to the carol God Rest You Merry Gentlemen, played by Nicola O'Shea.
Thank you for bringing some lift and jazz into our morning already. Good morning. I have to say that as I was preparing this morning, I was telling myself, oh, this is going to be fun. You're not going to cry. I have already cried. I don't know about you, but it is hard not to feel those bittersweet tears pushing through. It is a joy to be with you today on our first live stream worship service from the sanctuary. Good morning to those who are joining us in Vancouver, Newfoundland, and even our friends in the States. We are so glad that you're here with us today, here in this circle of love. Throughout the day today, you will be invited to make a joyful noise using the instrument that perhaps you got on your way in. So let's see your joyful noise makers. All right, see, I have one too. So, and I know our children in Fellowship Hall, they're joining us in making a joyful noise as well. So we all are making a joyful noise. If you don't have a fun little thing, you can clap, or you can do something I love to do. And we might all know this from Zoom, which is this, right? The celebration of this. So let's practice. Whoever you are, wherever you are in your life journey, you are welcome here. Let us open our hearts and minds and make a joyful noise as we gather for worship on this glorious day. I invite us to enjoy a hymn that Rachel prepared for us, hymn 244. It's not safe to sing yet. So sing on the inside in your heart. Your heart can sing loud, but we are still being safe. So we invite you to enjoy this hymn, enjoy the beauty of Rachel's music, and relish being together again.
Number 244, It Came Upon a Midnight Clear. It came upon the midnight clear, that glorious song of old, from angels bending near the earth to touch their harps of gold. Peace on the earth to all goodwill, from heavenly news we bring. The world in solemn stillness lay to hear the angels sing. Still through the cloven skies they come, with peaceful wings unfurled, and still their heavenly music floats o'er all the weary world. Above its sad and lowly plains they bend on hovering wing, and ever o'er its babel sounds the blessed angels sing. But with the woes of war and strife, the world has suffered long. Beneath the angel strain have rolled 2,000 years of wrong, and we who fight the wars hear not the love song which they bring. Oh, hush the noise of battle strife, and hear the angels sing. For lo, the days are hastening on, by prophet bards foretold, when with the ever-circling years comes round the age of gold, when peace shall over all the earth its ancient splendors fling, and the whole world give back a song which now the angels sing.
So some of you may know that is one of the few Unitarian written carols that we sing during this season. And had this been a different service, it would have been more central and we'd be talking about it more, but this isn't the service that we thought it was going to be a couple of months ago. This is the Christmas pageant that wasn't. Because every December, for as long as I can remember, and for decades before that, a Sunday in December has been put aside for a holiday service presented by the children and youth of our congregation. Sometimes it was called the Christmas pageant, and sometimes a holiday celebration. And sometimes it focused on festivals of lights that occur throughout the waning of the year as we approach the darkness of winter solstice. And sometimes on more specific celebrations of the Christmas story of the birth of Jesus. And preparations would usually start happening in CYRE in early November or so. And props and costumes and scripts would be prepared and lines rehearsed and music practiced. And often the vision for the day would be adapted and altered as it drew near. Before COVID, we started to move towards services that not only were delivered by the kids, but were designed by them. Philip, who you'll hear playing the violin a little later, when he was 11, wrote our pageant in 2018, which was called A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Manger. And then in 2018, and in 2019, Kelly Wolf and the holiday team posed the question to the children and youth, what do you want to say to the congregation? Which resulted in a service that wove various elements together, co-creating a worship experience that was filled with art, music, and meaningful words. And last year with the closure, we went to Zoom. A number of our youth contributed their talents for readings and music online and recordings. And this year, well, here we are. This year, the Sunday, which had been put aside for the CYRE holiday service, ended up coinciding with the first day we would all be invited back into the building. You might call it serendipity, you might call it something else, I don't know. Working to find ways to keep everyone as safe and healthy as we could, it meant that we couldn't have our younger children who haven't been vaccinated yet with us here today in the sanctuary. Though we do have two of our youth who are of an age where they can, sharing their musical talents with us this morning, Nicola and Philip. But we did want to connect you all with our children this morning. So behind me, I think there have been, hopefully, some photos going. Yep, okay. I hadn't looked behind me, so I just assumed it was happening. And these photos were some of the activities that the CYRE families engaged in last week in our gardens. Both a family tour of the gardens with Joanne Tunnicliffe, who did a wonderful job engaging the children, and an equally wonderful job by our own Rachel Derry, who sung some Christmas carols with us, which you'll hear shortly. We wanted to share some of our fun and our song from last week with you this morning, even though we couldn't do a full-fledged pageant. And while our younger congregants aren't here in the service with us this morning, they're watching the service over in Fellowship Hall with the new technology that we've got during the closure. So they are here in spirit. Our story for all ages this morning is Christmas Makes Me Think. Christmas is coming. Christmas is here. It's my favorite time when us kids get to have more fun, like watching cartoons at night and no school till next year. Christmas makes me think about helping my grandmother bake a chocolate cake and getting to lick the spoon. Christmas makes me think about our big, bright, colorful tree with lots and lots of lights and presents piled to the moon. But what about all those trees that never make it to the next Christmas? How could we pray and sing and wish for nice good things when trees are chopped down for us to hang bulbs and lights on them? Christmas makes me think of how much better it would be to just visit a tree and give it presents, or visit a turkey or a pig, and instead of eating one, feed it. Christmas makes me think about toys I have, but don't even play with, or clothes and shoes that I don't use. What about all the people who don't have a place to live or food to eat or presents in a stocking or under a tree. Christmas makes me think that I should share my presents with kids who don't have any, and get my friends to share too. We could be like new Santas, giving homeless people hats and gloves and scarves, sharing hot soup and songs. Because that's what Christmas should be about, not just fancy toys and the biggest tree. Christmas is coming, Christmas is here. It's my favorite time. I wish it could last and last a week, a month, or even a year. Christmas makes me think about others and not just me. That's the end of our story, but you may gather there's a connection, because every year we do a collection with this service where the Children's and Youth Religious Exploration Team partner with social justice to collect clothing items and gift cards for the Eva Rothwell Center at their annual holiday service. In the first year of the church's association with Eva Rothwell, it was decided to donate the winter clothing from our mitten tree directly to the center. And by the next year, the scope and nature of the collection evolved to better suit the needs of the center, as $1,700 in gift cards and clothing items were collected to be distributed to those in need in the Keith neighborhood. Similar collections of $1,500, nearly $2,000, $1,542.50. Somebody was keeping really close track that year. Followed in 2017, 2018, and 2019, respectively. Last year, despite the church closure during COVID, a special drive-by collection in the parking lot raised $1,893 in gift cards and $318.50 in hats, mittens, and other items, which was a total of $2,211.50. Today, we are once again asking for donations of gift cards for the Eva Rothwell Center, or alternatively, socks, underwear, hats, and mitts for youth and men, and cash. We still take cash. And these gifts are distributed by Sam Campanella, the executive director, and his staff within the Keith neighborhood to families in needs. After the service, on your way out, there are 2 baskets, one on either side at each door, which are labeled. And if you can drop your offerings in those, it would be greatly appreciated. We know that not everyone is able to return or ready to return to service at the church. So we will be outside, Doreen Knoll and myself, and maybe a youth or 2 if we can wrangle them, to accept drive-by donations between 12 noon and 1 o'clock. And I hope everyone can be as generous as possible for what has been a difficult year for many of our neighbors in Hamilton. And let's make this collection the best year ever. You can make a joyful noise for that, and we're going into our caroling from the kids.
Anybody familiar with Jingle Bells? Yes. Jingle Bells. So do you guys know the Dashing Through the Snow part too? Yeah. Okay, well, what we'll do is we'll start with the Jingle Bell part, and then we'll dash through the snow, and then we'll end with the Jingle Bell part. Does that sound good? All right, so we'll start a little higher. Jingle bells, jingle bells. Is that good? Jingle all the way. I think that's good. Everybody ready? All right, 1, 2, 3, 4. Jingle bells, jingle bells, jingle all the way. All our fun is to ride it onward, open sleigh. Hey! Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Good. All our fun is to ride it onward, open sleigh. Dashing through the snow. Open sleigh, for the kids we go, laughing all the way. Tell them up to me, making spirit shine. Oh, jingle bells, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Yeah! Oh, what fun it is to ride in one horse open sleigh. Hey! Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to any favorite carols that you know really well and would like to sing? Tim said maybe Rudolph. You know Rudolph? Yeah, that one. Do you want to give it a go? Do you think we can do it? I'm hoping I'll remember all the reindeers. You know Dasher and Dancer and Prancer and Vixen, Comet and Cupid and Donner and Blitzen. What do we know? The most famous reindeer of all. Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer, yeah, had a very shiny nose. And if you ever saw it, you would even say it slow. All the other reindeer used to laugh and call him names. Yeah, whoever let poor Rudolph join in any reindeer game. Then one foggy Christmas Eve, Santa came to say, so bright, won't you guide my sleigh tonight? Then all the reindeer loved him as he shouted out with glee. Yeah, Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer, you'll go down in history. Like George Washington. That was awesome.
So in keeping with our tradition of singing our children, youth, and our religious educator out of the service, we are going to keep that tradition. And we are going to, Rachel, we have a pre-recorded song that Rachel did, your song, Go Now in Peace. And we are going to joyfully send Tim forth to be with our children and youth in Fellowship Hall. So a joyful noise for you, Tim. Thank you for all of your hard work and dedication to this service. Thank you.
Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the love of God surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the love of God surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the love of God surround you everywhere, everywhere. May the love of God surround you. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the love of God surround you everywhere, everywhere. May the love of God surround you. May the love of God surround you. You may go everywhere you may go.
We are really lucky to have such talent here at First Unitarian of Hamilton. Yes, yeah, joyful noise for that, indeed. I'm wondering if you remember all the way back to September 12th. Was anyone here on September 12th when we had a party outside? I had just arrived. We had an open house. It was great fun, but it does seem like a long time ago, a really long time ago. We've been through a lot, even in that time. But one of the projects we did that day, it was a multi-generational project, was we started or we engaged in an art project that you see, a mural that is now outside our sanctuary doors. So we are going to tie the past to the present, and I invite Betty Reba up to share about our mural.
To get myself dressed here. Good morning. What a happy day to be back together. My name is Betty Ripa, and I work with a number of people to look after the aesthetics of this building. As you came into church today, perhaps you saw the new art installation of the reconciliation tree. When we heard the news of finding many unmarked graves of children of the residential schools, amid that grief, I asked myself, what can I do? The idea of some kind of artwork, perhaps highlighting the orange shirts, I wanted it to be an interactive and intergenerational activity honoring those dead children. 4 members of this congregation met to flesh out the ideas, and we decided on a many-branched tree. Kelly Wolf designed the tree using ideas from the Woodland Center and the colors of the medicine wheel: red, black, yellow, and white. The many branches of the tree will allow us to look at honoring Indigenous children, clean water, housing, education, and missing and murdered Indigenous women. At our open house in the fall, many canvases were painted and people were invited to paint their hands and then put their handprints on the canvas representing leaves of the tree. At that time, paper orange shirts were available for people to write or draw messages on. Many of the children drew pictures on theirs, and they were hung on the trees in the sanctuary. The hope is that this artwork would allow us to look at the Indigenous issues that could use our help. What can I do? Rings clear and loud with no immediate response. The purpose of the tree is to give us an avenue to do something and to more fully understand the issues. Lists of things that I can do will be available to you next week. I had to wait for Brenda Jackson from the cultural competence person at the Hamilton Indian Center to check over the information that I had and to basically give it her okay. She looked at the text and the list of things to do. She has added some suggestions which will be included. If you feel the need to do something, this is your opportunity. Thank you to everyone that assisted in getting this installation up and running. Readers, editors, supporters, and a huge thank you to Kelly Wolf for her creativity. Thank you.
I have joked that I hope I anticipate falling off this shortly. There's a little step behind this podium that is lovely when you're standing in front of it and easy to trip over. So that's why we are so very cautious. I invite Philip. Philip, what's our song? I know it changed.
I changed it to the first Noel.
The first Noel. Philip Versteeg. Welcome. Thank you. I invite us into a time of reflection and prayer, and I have a responsive reading for us to sink into, to bring us into collective community, both in this room and beyond. The mantra here is, no one is outside the circle of love. Let's practice. Practicing is good. No one is outside the circle of love. So you'll hear me give you the prompt, and I'll preface it with this. We know that our gathering today is incomplete. There are those who cannot yet join us, those who are caring for themselves or loved ones. We feel that loss today. We feel their absence, and in the prayer today, we pull them close into our circle of love. Spirit of life, Spirit of love, remind us to remain open, sensitive, and compassionate as we lean into the future. And now I invite you into our responsive reading. We know that hurt moves through the world, perpetrated by action, inaction, and indifference. Our values call us to live the reality of the heartbreak of our world, remembering that no one is outside the circle of love. We who are Unitarian Universalists not only affirm the inherent worth and dignity of every person, we also affirm the inherent wholeness of every being, despite apparent brokenness. No one is outside the circle of love. We know that things break or break down, promises, friendship, sobriety, hope, communication. This breaking happens because our human hearts and our very institutions are frail and imperfect. We make mistakes. Life is messy. No one is outside the circle of love. With compassion as our guide, we seek the well-being of all people. We seek to dismantle systems of oppression that undermine our collective humanity. We believe that we are here to guide one another toward love. No one is outside the circle of love. No matter how fractured we are or once were, we can make whole people of ourselves. We are whole at our core because of the great, unnameable, sometimes inconceivable love in which we live. No one is outside the circle of love. I invite us to hold a moment of collective silence and a prayer, a softening of our heart. last night on my way home from the rehearsal we had yesterday, because we wanted everything to be just right today. We were gathered here and we had a rehearsal, and as I was on my way home, I got caught in a powerful wind on Lock Street. It pulled me across the sidewalk and I had to catch my balance. And it reminded me that the wind is powerful. And in that moment, my heart sunk, remembering the tornadoes that ripped through the Midwest this weekend. And again, the memory that wind is scary and unpredictable. And it's a challenge to any certitude of security and balance. When I got home, I could hear the wind swirl around my apartment building, big whooshes and swooshes. And I texted a friend and I said, "It's a blustery day on Pearl Street." Soon, I was snuggled under a blanket watching a YouTube video featuring this fluffy friend. Who is this? This is Winnie the Pooh, right? So I was curious why all of a sudden I had this connection between Winnie the Pooh, we'll set him here, or set them there, they'll stay. Why I had suddenly thought of Pooh Bear in the story, A Very Blustery Day on Pooh Corner. It turns out that in this story, Pooh Corner is hit by a windstorm and a flood. And in the course of finding their way, Eeyore finds Owl a new home, and Pooh accidentally rescues Piglet from the flood, and they get through it in the end. And what do? They celebrate. Pooh, Piglet, Owl, and Eeyore, and Christopher Robin have a party of joy and gratitude. And I thought about what is this story teaching me? What is it teaching us about community, about the inevitability of storms to pass through life, even in the idealized world of Pooh Corner? As I listened to the wind howl outside my window, I realized that this was the part that seemed unbelievable to me. The celebration and joy and gratitude that Pooh and friends embrace, it seems unbelievable. And I realized in that moment that I might be a bit of a party pooper. I too struggle to embrace joy in a world that is so alive with suffering. Perhaps this resonates for you too. Sometimes I feel like claiming an exuberant joy will erase the complexity of truth that sits near the surface. And then I remember that joy is a countercultural gesture. Joy is resistance. Joy is saying yes to life with wild abandon. It's a revolutionary act that celebrates hope, kindness, and love. Joy is the pleasure of being alive, of loving life in all the forms that it takes. Returning to my Pooh Bear friend, who has traveled many places with me throughout the years and along the way has lost their shirt. I'm not sure where Pooh's shirt went to. I'm reminded of an innocence that lurks inside of me, that craves the transcendent simplicity of a celebratory joy, even as a storm waits just on the horizon. Gail shared this lovely reading this morning from Khalil Gibran that names this challenge to allow joy and sorrow to live in the same room together. And sometimes one is more near than the other. Today, in the spirit of Pooh, we make room for joy. In the weeks and months ahead, some things will feel familiar. We will light our chalice, rest our weary hearts, and be inspired by music, celebrate our young people, and sometimes even hear a moving sermon if I do my very best. We will rediscover our connections and slowly, and perhaps with some shyness and hesitation, relearn how we are together. I invite you to notice familiar things that bring you comfort and joy along the way, to celebrate the details that ground you, that fill you with gratitude. Say those things out loud with a friend. Maybe you love the familiar feeling of finding the perfect parking space, the hustle and bustle of arriving at church on a Sunday morning. Many people have shared with me how much they love singing at home along with Rachel Derry and their favorite chair in their pajamas. There are gifts here. Joyfully notice and celebrate the familiar. In the weeks and months ahead, there will be new things happening too. We might feel the winds pull us off balance as we acclimate to change once again, as we continue to grow and learn and refine our in-person and multi-platform worship, as well as continuing to adapt to the changing demands of the virus. We want worship and programs to be more welcoming and more inclusive. I invite you, and I invite myself to joyfully welcome innovation, adaptation, and our collective commitment and covenant with each other to do the very best we can. Things might feel different. You might miss the way things used to be. I do too. May we keep grace close and compassion near as we all adventure into the future, being the very best that we can be. There will also be time to notice our sorrows. Next week at our Blue Holiday service, we'll explore the songs of sadness and grief flowing through ourselves and in the world, and listen to them tenderly with reverence. On Tuesday, December 21st, we will have an online solstice celebration acknowledging the longest night, a place to hold tenderness in ourselves, the creative spirit of the solstice. We'll enjoy the music of Cindy Carey. It's an evening to rediscover stillness in our lives in a very busy season. On Christmas Eve, we'll have the traditional 2 services, the children and family service at 5 p.m. and the candlelight Christmas service at 7 p.m. And all of this is available on our website or on our all church email. If you have questions about that, you can see one of our fantastic greeters at the door. We also have a system in place where we're reaching out to those who are not electronically hooked in, because not everyone is, and that's okay. But we're reaching out to the expanse of our community with phone calls and conversations to make sure that we are indeed including everyone in the circle of love. Finally, I want to celebrate those who made this day possible. Our board of directors our wonderful staff, Tim Versteeg, who has led our children and youth program through the pandemic and through the reopening process and said yes to some of my goofier ideas along the way. To our music ministers, Rachel Derry and Cindy Carey, who keep blessing us and leading our music ministries through changing times. To the sound and tech team who have solved some really big and mysterious problems in the last few weeks. And to everyone who has kept the circle of love going with our online presence. I'll name those who are here with us today for sure. Brian Carey, John Elliott, Mary Ann Forbes, John Pegg. Make a joyful noise. Today, you were welcomed by our congregational engagement team. Catherine Colley led them along with Ann Erickson. I know I'm leaving people out, I'm sorry. Next week, there's always next week. Gail Rapole. Gail Rapole said yes to being the first service leader in this new context. Gail, thank you, and brought the words of inspiration. There are so many people to be grateful for. Mary and Joanne for being ushers. We are all braving this new day, and I'm so grateful. And it took so many hours of planning, so many meetings and so many conversations and so much hard work to bring us here. So there's one person who really deserves a few days off at least. None of this would have been possible without Bruce McPherson. Bruce carried the work of operations across the finish line, and he was so remarkable. I'm wondering if the Ticats need somebody on their team today to help them win the game, because he could certainly be an asset to their team. I believe Bruce is headed for a few days of vacation. Is that right? Catherine's like, yes. So we instruct Bruce to turn off his cell phone, to not answer email, and to really savor some time with family over the next couple days. Thank you for lending Bruce to our community. And for Bruce, where's Bruce at? He's in his office. Oh, but he's watching this over Zoom. So Bruce, thank you, Bruce. Thank you. So I want to acknowledge somebody who isn't here, but is here, and is here deep inside my heart. When the congregation entered the pandemic in March of 2019, Reverend Victoria was your minister. I don't know if you feel that like I feel that. I feel that. She walked with you, loved you, ministered to you during the hardest months of the pandemic. I have come to know Reverend Victoria not over coffee and collegial chats, but rather through the legacy of her ministry to you. The love, kindness, and patience that ripples through and is present in the life of this community. Let us give thanks for the ministry of Reverend Victoria as she is here today. A joyful noise. There's one last thing to be grateful for and celebrate. I would like you to celebrate yourselves. We are here in the sanctuary and online because of each other. Let our joyful noise be a celebration of this special place, the commitment and love that has flowed freely and abundantly in this building and beyond. Beloveds, make a joyful noise in celebration of each other. We need each other to survive. I have nothing left to say. I am out of words. I am holding back my own tears of joy. Join us as we celebrate Joy to the World. Hymn 245, again, we will sing from the depths of our hearts and spirits and make a joyful noise.
Number 245, Joy to the World.